In the 2021 mid-quarter, and that's fourth quarter update, the head of ANKR product makes an interesting claim. Quote, several metaverse games are building on ANKR infrastructure right now. End quote. In my mind, this validates what I've argued in favor of a few months ago, which is that if you're attempting to build a company or project that does anything at all cross-chain, the economics are going to bring you to ANKR. Why do I say that? Well, it isn't just the research I did with tokens.com. Welcome to Unusual Due Diligence. I am your host, Poseidon, god of the sea. In today's fresh episode, we link and swim from the ANKR to the Solana and discover a stargate hidden along the way. Now, starting with this video and later edited into many of the prior videos, I've set in receive addresses for different tokens and coins down in the description below if you are feeling especially generous. The plan with those contributions is to further build out the unusual of Unusual Due Diligence. I can go far by myself, but together we can go further. Speaking of further, ready to explore a stargate? Let's dive in. I say that the economics are going to bring you to ANKR because the inherent cost of rolling out the complete infrastructure for a multi-chain solution is simply cost prohibitive and leads in a fundamental question. Is your project about building fundamental access to multiple blockchain technologies, or do you want to narrowly focus on your problem domain and solve that instead? But Poseidon, I hear someone argue, what about when I have a project that just needs one blockchain? Why would I use ANKR when I could just as easily build directly on Solana? Frankly, the answer is a giant it depends. For example, ANKR has a dizzying amount of public RPCs, and that's the focus of today's episode because of this second quote from the head of ANKR product. Quote, seems many people are betting on the layer 1 or layer 2 Ethereum killer. Is it Solana? Phantom? Avalanche? From ANKR's perspective, we see a multi-chain world where one chain doesn't take all the market share. Instead, middleware like ANKR will connect them all together. End quote. Now, if you are paying special attention to the recent video covering tokens.com, you may have observed that tokens.com acquired 10,000 SOL, which is the internal currency for Solana, not long after tokens.com announced this, as well as their acquisition of several million ANKR tokens. I happened to run across the following Twitter promoting the ANKR Solana RPC gateway. Quote, the @Solana public RPC endpoint is the gateway for developers to interface with the Solana blockchain, a portal to communicate easily, remotely, and with no need to go through the DevOps of establishing your own Solana node. End quote. Now, just a moment ago, I said this, and quoting myself, but Poseidon, I hear someone argue. What about when I have a project that just needs one blockchain? Why would I use ANKR when I could just as easily build directly on Solana? End quote. Why again use ANKR instead of working directly with Solana? It turns out there's a tremendous value being unlocked, or anchored, to the bottom line. By treating ANKR as a kind of level 0 protocol that a project working with just one chain, or multiple chains, can immediately realize with their value. In fact, this isn't my conclusion alone. It is also what I later identified the head of ANKR product tosses out almost as a throwaway conclusion. Quote, I think of ANKR more like a layer 0 protocol, where the underlying infrastructure that makes it easy to interact with all these blockchains at the same time. End quote. Okay, what does the head of ANKR product, who goes by Josh on the intertubes, what is it that Josh means when he says layer 0 protocol? This is a bit of a deep road, but it's an important one. The idea originates out of Ethereum, which is where ANKR's 10 billion token contract originates. In Ethereum, there are two layers. Don't worry if you already know this. I'm only providing a quick high level in this video. So in Ethereum, there's what's called a layer 1, and then another layer called layer 2. Is there a layer 3? Yes, there is. The curious thing about these layer ideas is they are localized to one blockchain. What do I mean by that? Well, let's quickly recap what an official take of what each layer means. A layer 1 protocol, which is sometimes called an implementation layer, refers to a system associated with the base or main architecture of one blockchain network. A layer 1 protocol sets the entire network's rules and parameters, such as its consensus algorithm, block time, transaction throughput, etc. Layer 2 protocols, also known as second layer solutions or off-chain blockchain protocols, are protocols that sit on top of layer 1 networks in order to carry out some of the load, providing scalability or even interoperability features. Layer 3 protocols, commonly known as application layers, consist of the protocols that allow applications to run on blockchains, as well as the application themselves. So, you know what's an interesting miss on layer 1, 2, and 3? It's the assumption that you're only on one blockchain. You see, there's a dizzying amount of innovation happening in blockchain technology right now, and each blockchain is assuming itself to be the one. Anchor's point of view is different. Anchor helps solve a critical problem, frankly, which is that if you have a project and you want to reduce risk by having an alternative chain or two on which to base your application, you could do that. You could do that because, as a layer 0 protocol, you're getting access to all blockchains, regardless of their level of sophistication. Layer 1, 2, 3, all an option. Anchor is going to get you access to it. And if you have an Anchor account, you can see the dizzying amount of options in their portfolio. Now, in my thinking, Layer 0 is not a great name. But as you've heard the argument, it makes sense why Anchor is considered something akin to an AWS of blockchain and cryptocurrency technology. Anchor is in the infancy stages of being a platform to enable developers and investors to solve their metaverse technology projects. I wouldn't call that Layer 0. No, instead, I'd call that a stargate. Why stargate? Because Anchor today, if we narrow our lens to just RPC endpoints, supports an amazing register of public endpoints that a developer can build an application upon. Imagine having a real stargate that, if you dial in the coordinates, opens up to an entire blockchain and all 3 levels of activity upon it. That's why the default setting for the stargate, well, viewer, the default is set to the moon, of course. This is Unusual Due Diligence. I'm your host, Poseidon, god of the sea, and future user of the Anchor Multiverse Stargate. Make waves, my friend.